Today we're going to have a brief talk about multipolarity. You've heard the term multipolarity and you've heard the term unipolarity. Unipolarity is usually meant as a derogatory term, meaning that America is the hegemon. America runs the world. Multipolarity is viewed as the alternative to that. And that term has come to more frequency in the last few years. I've mentioned it before on my programs, but I want to delve into it a little bit more tonight and may have future programs on this. So, what is multipolarity? Quote, it's a distribution of global power in which three or more states or power blocks hold comparable amounts of economic, military, and diplomatic influence. It stands in contrast to unipolarity and bipolarity. And end of quotes. The hidden meaning here is that America is stripped of its power and it becomes merely a regional power, with Russia and China becoming other regional powers, or there being regional powers, excuse me, at different places around the globe. And the people who spread this idea, they're shills for Russia, China, and the tyrants. One of them is Glenn Deason. He's a professor in Norway. He has supported Putin's war in Ukraine and Putin's war against the West because Putin's been waging hybrid warfare for many years now. Of course, another one in support of multipolarity is Alexander Dugin. He wrote a book extolling multipolarity and called it The Foundations of Geopolitics. I've started reading it, so some of my thoughts from that reading are coming out here. In that book, he references the various lines of thought, the various founding fathers of multipolarity, of the principles or the doctrines, and the justification for it. Um, at one point, he says it's, quote, the rest against the West, end of quote. And he extols Eurasianism, which is basically a Russian doctrine for empire. That's all it means. The Russian Empire comes back, runs through Central Asia and Eastern Europe. And in addition, from what I can tell so far, the book is couched in terms of conflict and civilizational struggle or war. Some people say this sounds realistic. It's not. It is a repudiation of the world order that Russia and China and America helped set up at the end of World War II in 1945. And that world order was and is very moral and very proper for a number of reasons. So, what we have here is Russia and China and other bad actors really going back on their promises. To have the world set up in accordance with the UN Charter, which gave each nation certain rights and certain equality with other nations. Well, multipolarity does away with that. But, anyways, Russia is based on lies. It promotes lies. With its disinformation, the lies it's based on is that Russia is actually Russia when it's really just the Duchy of Muscovy. Russia is powered by a supranationalism and ultranationalism, which is per se evil. And what they do, and of course now they're waging aggressive war against the West through Ukraine, hybrid warfare elsewhere. Against Europe and against America. They've waged hybrid warfare against America, interfered with our elections and with our social structure. And so Russia has always ignored the person, destroyed the person. And so it has always disregarded the rule of law, and its ultranationalism extinguishes the person. Deason says, well, human rights are a problem because human rights are put justice over security of the state, sovereignty of the state. So, of course, that is not the moral proper outlook. Human rights are essential to the security of the state and to right ordering the world, because human rights are the civil rights that protect the person. China has a lot of the similar things. It's based on ultranationalism. They've been breaking the rule of law around the world with interference with navigation, South China Sea, flooding the markets. They've been engaged, in weakening economies. They're engaged in information wars, and of course, they violate human rights with the Rohingya, and so they don't really care that much about the person. But they're a signatory, like Russia, to the UN Charter, which is a treaty which they have to obey, and they're signatory to a number of different conventions, and they just give lip service to the person. They give lip service to these conventions. Because if Russia really believed in the UN Charter, it would not have waged aggressive war against Ukraine. Okay, that it violated the Charter, and that itself is immoral. So multipolarity does several things. It is an affront on peace. It's a disregard for the rule of law. It is really a way to break up the community of nations, which we saw with the United Nations. And it's also ultimately an attack on the person because the regimes that want it want what? They want dictatorial power, tyrannical power. What multipolarity also does is a violation, really, of the natural law. And I refer to Epstein's 53 work Code of International Ethics in this, and there's several points in particular I want to draw out. The current world order, as contained in the UN Charter, uh, it talks about the equality of states. Each state is equal. Well, multipolarity won't do that. You're going to have lesser states and bigger states. Multipolarity disregards this idea of community of nations. We're all one community. You got power blocks with this multipolarity idea. These ideas are back from the 1800s. These are the ideas that led to the great power struggles and led to World War One. And the UN did away with that. We had 80 plus years of peace, or so around there. But the community of nations says we're all in it together. We're all in here to help each other. We have regional agreements to help, but we're all in it together at the UN. We don't have power blocks. We're all equal. Um, the third thing it does, that what multipolarity does with these spheres of influence, it effectively puts the individual goals of individual countries ahead of those of those of the world. So it is the resurgence of this old idea that's been discredited, both theologically, by the natural law, by thinkers, lawyers. It's a resurgence of this old idea that the state is supreme. It can do whatever it wants according to its own interests. Well, maybe that worked in 2000 BC when you had about three civilizations on the earth. But the reality is that especially nowadays, the state cannot morally, cannot legally act for its own interests in disregard of the interests of the community. But multipolarity puts the interests of the community, of the individual state, ahead of that of the community of nations. It destroys cooperation and multilateralism. Multilateralism is a way for people in the world to work together, to achieve things, to fix problems, to benefit, to raise all boats, because you got power blocks. So one power block is going to want to be more powerful than the other, and so you're going to have a situation where people are not going to want to cooperate, and you're not going to have the cooperation among all the peoples of the world. This is going to help the rise. Multipolarity will help the rise of tyranny. It's going to return us to 1914. And you can see that, with the people who want this. I mean, the Chinese are tyranny. Russia's a tyranny. The people here in the United States who want this, the Steve Bannons, the Heritage Foundation, these people want tyrants. And I think arguably they've rejected the American. I think they've rejected. It's not arguable. They've rejected the American creed, and they really are not interested in the four principles that have kept the world peaceful and prosperous and right ordered. These four principles of the American order that I've talked to you about: person, community, rule of law, and peace. And then, last of all, what you're going to have in a multipolar world is the likelihood of war is going to be greater, especially with the rise of these tyrannies. These are some of the reasons why multipolarity is immoral, and we have to understand that it's not a good thing. It's an attack on right order. It's an attack on America. It's an attack on all of us. So, is multipolarity moral? No. Multipolarity is immorality. Thank you.